Hi, we'd like to welcome you to Veterans Issues tonight on CANTV Channel 21 on December the 6th. This is 2012. We are the United States Veterans Art Program. My name is Carol Williams, and I am here with Lt Colonel Lucila Ibarra, who is going to be doing a lot of nodding and waving and shaking her head because she's got a little bit of laryngitis today that she woke up with. And you will hear her every once in a while say something. Hi, yes, hi. We are going to be talking about a subject that is very important to us as well as the viewers, I'm sure. This is Veterans Issues. And I'll tell you a little bit about our program first that is the sponsoring organization, the United States Veterans Art Program. We do have a website, www.usvap.org. Our mission is to increase the representation of veterans in the arts community. We do shows like this. We do shows with veterans who are artists. We donate artistic tools, resources to veteran facilities all through the nation. We've been doing this for about 3 years. This is all in an attempt to get people to be interested in exploring their own heads and their own brains and their own time and their own feelings by using things that otherwise perhaps they wouldn't think that they were either able to work with or have the opportunity to work with, whether it's a crayon and a piece of paper or a computer program that allows you to create things, a musical instrument, a photography equipment, something that would make you find a different way to say something that's important to you. So this is our website here, www.usvap.org. Our email is there. Give us a shout out if you are interested in what we're doing. Go to our website and check us out. And we encourage you, if you're in Chicago, which if you're watching this, you probably are, that you can hook up with whatever veteran facility that you're registered with, which if you're in Chicago would be Jesse Brown VA. You can ask for a referral to see recreation therapy. Lucy and I know each other through the Expressive Arts Program up at Lovell, which is North Chicago. See, I get to do all the talking. She just nods and says, yes, Carol. The Expressive Arts Therapy Program up at Lovell. But you can get a referral to actually go to recreation therapy. Let me tell you about recreation therapy a little bit. It's the umbrella department for art therapy, music therapy, and all kinds of other activities that you may think aren't necessarily all that important or therapeutic. But oddly enough, it's tailored around finding something that you can use to speak your mind. And sometimes find what it is that you want to say when you do speak your mind. So it's good for all kinds of things. It's recreation therapy. Check them out. Ask if you can get a referral to them. Lucy and I, of course, met through something up at Lovell that is very similar to that, using creativity, art, and thinking all combined into being able to say what you want to say, and having a lot of other people there to hear you say it if you want them to.
And heal.
And heal. Absolutely, which is the whole point of the VA or any veterans facility. We'd like to have you call in if you've got any questions, comments. We're going to be talking about military sexual trauma today, which is part of the diagnosis of PTSD. PTSD is the overarching umbrella for post-traumatic stress syndrome. MST is military sexual trauma, which is a part of that syndrome, which is part of that, and has many, many similarities to PTSD, many similarities in the ways that people approach it as far as treatment goes. And this is also the reason why I met Lucy, who is sitting here with laryngitis, and also her chronic hiccups, which she's had for, you said?
25 years.
25
Since the
years.
first incident. And that's what caused me to have that also. With the first incident, it caused me to not keep my food down, and I didn't know any of that. That was very foreign for me. I'm Mexican. We love to eat. So this was very foreign for me, and when I was first taken into the emergency room, it was assumed that I was pregnant, but I was so sick and I couldn't fathom what happened to me, where the guy, he was a captain, special forces, and took me. And after he attempted to sexually assault me, the next morning, I was stuck there. I was an E4, 19 years old. And the next morning, now he's concerned about my well-being. He's offering me a bologna sandwich and orange juice. I couldn't even breathe.
So your natural response to that would probably be nausea and the urge to expunge whatever food-like object ever came past you.
And so the thought, and I couldn't stand anybody touching me. So I had already this condition, but it's supposed to go away for everybody who gets assigned there to Panama. It goes
This is
away.
in Panama, right?
Yeah, it should go away as we acclimatize to the sand fleas and the environment and the heat and the humidity. For me, I lasted 2 years, always going to get prescription strength Benadryl.
Right, sure.
And it didn't work.
Hydrocortisone.
And it didn't work. I just kept getting worse with the skin condition.
Now, if you're watching this show, I'd like to say, as part of the introduction here, is that this is Lieutenant Colonel. She outranks most everyone who ever turned the TV on to begin with. So whether you're watching this show, I'm sure you would have thought that, gee, if I could only be a lieutenant colonel, I would have so much power. I would go in and change things. I would be able to speak my mind. I could make people do what I wanted, make them stop doing what I didn't want. And so we have this woman here who is a lieutenant colonel in the Army. And you're also the sexual assault prevention officer.
I was the sexual assault response coordinator in Iraq. And that's where everything just kind of came full circle. I realized that we need to do a whole lot better, especially with leaders. Since many of our cases, the offenders are leaders of every level.
I think that anybody watching the show would certainly feel that the recent events in the last month bear you out when you say that. It's not just something that you know or you think, and the rest of us just don't have the information that you have.
It's a culture.
It's a culture.
It is a culture. Even though there's all kinds of training and mandatory mandatory requirements modules that we have to go through for leaders, we're many times we're not there. We're busy in staff briefings, meetings, stuff like that. And the juniors see that.
Well, sometimes I like to assume that people who are watching, and you can call in to the number on your screen, 312-738-1060. We'd like to hear what your thoughts are, what your experiences are. We've had several people call in the past couple of months who either have had their own instances of either sexual harassment or military sexual trauma. Sometimes people call in and ask what they can do about it because they're so enraged because it is an epidemic within not just the military population, but that's what we're concerned with today here because this is veterans issues. We'd like to hear what your comments or your examples are if you have anything to say. But sometimes I think that people get so frustrated talking about the problem that it is a problem. It is a travesty. It is a social evil. And the ultimate question is, what can we do about it? What can we do to treat it? What can we do to prevent it? And sometimes I think that it's, like you've said before, it starts in such a insidious way, such a harmless way, that we don't really know what it is when we see it.
And we're not willing to call it.
No, we're not.
We're not willing to name it, even though we know that, I'm not comfortable with this.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, with the rank structure,
Mm-hmm.
the power level, and the authority figure,
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was ingrained in us.
Mm-hmm.
If we are insubordinate in any way, we're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. But
We're wrong.
women feel that way too, and sometimes I think that if we want to solve this problem, it's not, the solution is not going to come from men. It's going to come from women. Because we sometimes, to a certain extent, have to change our behavior. We can't expect other people to change their behavior. We have to change our behavior. And this is not something that we talked about before the show, but I would like to say that I would bet you, I don't know, what's a lot of money to you, $10? I would bet you, and I'll be able to tell if you're laughing, if this was true when you were in basic training. I'll bet it is, because we didn't talk about this before the show. But when I was in basic training, you get up at 5 in the morning. Okay, I don't like getting up at 5 in the morning. Never did, never will. So you're getting up at 5 in the morning, and everybody was in a big room. It was a bay. It wasn't, a 2 or a 4 room or 4-person room. It was a huge bay, 40 of us, bunk beds. And people in my platoon, this was before they did co-ed basic training at Fort McClellan. People in the platoon, all girls, would set their alarms for 4:30 a.m. so that they could get up before they had to get up to put makeup on. And that didn't happen to you in basic training?
I don't remember.
Maybe you just slept
that.
better than I did.
Well,
You're getting up at 4:30 a.m. so that you can put your makeup on, so that you can look good for 240 other women soldiers and 7 or 8 women drill sergeants, and maybe 2 guys that are going to be out at the rifle range.
No, we had a packing list, and there was very specific about towels and socks and underwear and bras and what color. And
Right, and how to fold them, yes.
Yep.
Right.
Very specific. And
So
shower
you're
shoes.
saying that people weren't wearing makeup in basic training?
I'm not saying that at all.
Well, maybe you just slept through it. I just thought that was like the worst possible example of sexualizing your own existence when you don't even have to. You don't have to do that.
Well, what many did in Iraq was get their hair done and go to the salon,
Mm-hmm.
and that was very common. That was very important. Get their hair done.
Well, I understand that it can be an aesthetic need to not look like a complete slob when you get up in the morning, but on the other hand, you have to ask yourself at a certain point, what is the message that you want to send to people? If you can't even allow yourself to get up at 5 a.m. and be completely surrounded by people who don't care how you look, you're going to be outdoors all day, and you still have the need to create an attractive persona. If women have such a strong need to do that, I'd say you have to step back and ask yourself, what is the message that you're sending to yourself and to other people? And I guarantee you, if you just be yourself and use your own face and be able to say what you think, you'd send the message that this is a workspace. We're not trying to tell you that you should be prudes or that you should be a fly on the wall or a wallflower. We're trying to get the message that when women work alongside men, that we have to get the message out that we're all workers. We're not there to create a exciting situation that
Glamorous.
could lead to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the only thing that we're capable of accomplishing, we can't control everything that everyone else does, but maybe we can control that part of it.
A lot of it is the power. There is a power structure. It's really not has to do with sex per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's power structure and who can beat down or who can break down the other person or the subordinate or the one with the less power, regardless of gender.
Right.
It happens.
This is not a women's issue. This is a people issue. Absolutely. Absolutely. And what is it that you're saying to people who are looking at you and it's obvious that you got up half an hour earlier than you really had to put on a layer of makeup? Does that give them power over you?
Bottom line is what I tell people: respect one another. Personal issues, leave them aside. Personal insults, no. Respect one another. Period. Period. This
And when
is
that
not to get
doesn't
personal.
happen, we have to decide what we're going to do.
And it's where the courage in all of us, where we stand up, or someone says, no. We need to focus on the mission. Let's focus on the mission. Let's cut this out.
And when people don't respond to that, that's when we start having to ask the hard questions.
And there's avenues for that. And I just did several investigations, and I asked those hard questions. I need answers. One, to find out what really happened, what's going on, and to find out the truth. And also to learn from it and to prevent it again and educate one another and realize we have to either with policies, regulations, update them, upgrade them, revise them. We need to do better, but we have to do the hard work to do it and have the courage.
Well, actually, this is the hard work of it, what we're doing right here and what we're doing with the audience and what we're doing with CANTV and the platform that we have. This is the hard work of it, which is where we talk about it. We ask for people to give comments, to say what they think. We talk about it because if we don't talk about it, then it doesn't get dealt with. Even when we talk about it, a lot of times it doesn't get dealt with. But people know that they can express themselves if they can see a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army talk about it as a personal experience and as a personal issue. Then I think we need to learn from that and say, you know what, I'm not a lieutenant colonel. Well, I was a staff sergeant, and for some people that's better than being a lieutenant colonel. But, you know, but it's not something that we should be afraid to talk about, because it's pervasive throughout the society. And if you have a comment, we'd love to hear from you. 312-738-1060. We actually have someone here to answer the phone. I know last month we had several callers. I think perhaps got the busy signal, I'm not sure, but if you'd like to call in and give us a piece of your mind, that's fine too. We're going to review just very briefly what we're talking about, which is military sexual trauma. And this is actually directly from the definition used by the VA: psychological trauma which resulted from a physical assault of a sexual nature. That's one thing battery of a sexual nature, that's a second thing, or sexual harassment, and that's the third thing, which occurred while the veteran was serving on active duty. And I constantly come back to this idea of sexual harassment because, like we've talked about before, you've called it flirting, which is kind of the best word I can think of. You know, this flirtatious back and forth without being appropriate in a workplace.
And not only that, but there's a lot of communication that's taken place through Facebook and emails and places like that, and it's very inappropriate for commanders to friend or the inappropriate relationships, and somebody has to point it out. And what happens with what I realize is that many of our subject matter experts are lower ranking than that commander. And even though we raise a concern, we're only advising. We're not mandating.
I'm sure that we don't even need to mention the recent situation. Actually, there are at least 3 of them, one of which involved a general that was just brought back from, I believe, Afghanistan. Not the CIA director. This is someone else. That the investigation has been ongoing for at least 6 months.
Brigadier General Jeffrey.
I actually never knew his name. They never really said his name.
Sinclair.
And it's really difficult to find the situation when you see your leadership not adapting the same ideals of behavior, but on the other hand, wouldn't you rather see it publicized than it not to be publicized when it does happen?
And yes, I will do that, but yet many of my colleagues will say, don't say anything. Whereas I would say, the Emperor's new clothes, the Emperor's naked. And others will say, shh, don't say anything, say it's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's okay, it's good.
Right.
And I go, no, it is not okay, and I will call it.
Do you think you've been a whistleblower?
Yes. Yes, I have. And I'm not going to stop, and so I'm okay with that. I'm not going to stop, because it needs to be said, it needs to be raised, it needs to be brought to a level of awareness where we need to respect one another, and also have the courage to tell me that, ma'am, you're stepping over the line, or I don't have all the answers. So one of my subject matter experts is afraid to come to me to tell me, but then we got another issue, toxic leadership. I believe we have a lot of leaders who are toxic and create a very toxic environment. So I do believe we got to connect the dots between leadership, suicide, sexual assault, and substance abuse.
Wow.
We have to connect those dots, and we're not doing well. We're not. We're doing a lot of lip service, I believe, and we need to get real.
Wow, there you have it. That's heavy.
We need to get real.
If you have any questions, comments, this is the time to do that. We're going to be off in a minute, and we're going to be back next month, which is January. Yikes. January. Oh my gosh. We totally forgot to show our favorite photo. Now we're talking about, we got so engrossed here. This is Lt Colonel Lucila Ibarra's therapy dog. Well, he's not really. He's Tony. Tony is like super dog, who
14 years
he's
old.
14 years old, and he represents essentially what a lot of people are finding out recently, which is that dogs are really a good thing to do when you need somebody that a person can't possibly. This is an actual service dog.
Make us human.
Yes,
do.
make us human. Absolutely.
We love them.
We're going to be back next month. Thank you very much. This is the United States Veterans Art Program. This is Lt Colonel Lucila Ibarra. My name is Carol Williams, and we'll see you in 2013. Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas and Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much.